Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Thursday. It is time for your Thursday thoughts. Please share them with us so we can all have a little bit of a distraction from some madness, because that's what 2020 was and what 2021 looks like it will be, at least for a little while. Look, I don't like to talk about stuff non-soccer related on the show because you guys come to this to not hear about that stuff, and I'm not going to bore you with it. Think about, I guess the biggest thing I would say that crosses over in a lot of things here is there are a lot of people who use their platform for negativity, for awful things, for mistreating of other people, for lies, for creating narratives, for all kinds of things like that. You know, it's easy to blame social media. It's people. It's not social media, it's people. Social media is a megaphone. It is a megaphone, it is a speaker, it is a microphone. It allows you to broadcast whatever you want to say to a bunch of people. You get to choose who you listen to, right? Don't blame it on big evil social media. And if you have a platform, which is anybody with a Twitter account, Facebook account, Instagram account, whatever, think about what you post, please. Think about the responsibility that you are assuming with using that. And yeah, there's some jobs that have a whole lot more responsibility than others, right? It's if you're going to ask somebody to pay attention to what you have to say, you got to be responsible. And we're seeing some of the things that can happen when people aren't. So just think about that in your own life, because I'm not running for president anytime soon. I'm not running for Congress. I'm not running for any of those things. But there are lessons you can learn from how some of these people that, when I was growing up, we were taught to respect, have acted. So please think about what you can do to make the world a better place. I know, I've been angry since all this started. Been angry before that, but I've been angry about what we saw yesterday. And you can get angry, and you can stay angry, and you can get depressed, and you can be upset. And all of those things are completely and utterly valid. But we have to, as people, think about what it means to be a good person. And we can do that on our own. We can do that individually in our own lives. We can make the world around us a better place. And you have to start with that. You have to start with that. It's frustrating to see people hijack things for their own individual gain or their own individual message, not thinking about other people, not worrying about other people, not caring about other people. You have to think about the people around you and make the world a better place around you. That's what we can control. Let's please try to do that. If you listen to the show, I mean, I say that a lot, but it's real. It's real. It's the things we can affect. And you want to take it to just a soccer perspective, think about the groups of people that you go to games with. Think about the clubs you support. Think about how you spend your time. Think about what you use your voice for. Do that. We can all take some responsibility and make the world a better place. Let's please try to do that and not have these things happen, because it's getting to a point where it's beyond just, haha, somebody said something stupid, let's make fun of them. And people are getting hurt and people are getting killed. And we're eroding the respect for a lot of different things that are very important. So let's all try to make the world a better place. That's all where we can start. We can't control everything, but we can control what's around us. And there's my soapbox for you this morning. I don't want to get into it all day. We're not going to. You guys come to us for something else. And I'm sorry that I even wasted that much time on it. But I felt like you can't ignore what we all saw yesterday. It's not something in history you can ignore. It's something that 100 years from now will be studied. Like some of the things that we studied in school 100 years before. It's that big of a deal. So all we can do is try to make the world a better place around us and take that responsibility. Don't say there's nothing you can do. You can. Are you going to affect people in government office with what you do around your world? Maybe not. Maybe you make a more important impact with things that matter a little bit more around you. So do that for each other. If you're in the SDH listening base, and I've talked to a lot of y'all outside of shows, I talked to a lot of y'all through private messages, we talked to a lot of y'all on Discord. You guys do an amazing job of looking out for one another, and that's been the most exciting thing that's happened with this show in the last year, a crazy year for all of us, is you guys have always looked out for one another. Please continue to do that and look out for the people around you as well. Just do the best you can.
No, right there with you. I will absolutely co-sign everything that you said this morning. It starts with, and I don't want this to come across as sounding cliche, but it starts with one person and how you interact with the next person, and so on and so on and so on. And if you're a source of good, a source of warmth, a source of just being there for one another, then it rubs off on others. Folks will look at you and they will see that you act in a certain way, and it rubs off on other people. So be that source for others, and be there as that support system that we've all seen here in the last year for each other. But no, I'm right there with you.
Do what you can do. It's all you can control. You use your power, use your time, use your heart for good. That's what we can control. That's what we're going to try to do around here as best we can. All right, let's get into some of the things that did happen yesterday. And I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and tell you that I studied the Manchester City and Manchester United game in depth, and I can tell you all the best players of the match and all that. No, I couldn't watch anything really yesterday. I kept up with Boca and Santos as a distraction as best as I could. Kept up with Velez and Lanús as well as best that I could, but I was a little distracted. But there were things that did happen outside of the madness in this country yesterday, and they're important things in our world, in the soccer world. So just from a news perspective, if you were like me and you were distracted by all of this, Juventus beat Milan. First loss for Milan in 28 games. It was the loss. 304 days. Weston McKennie got a goal in that. It's a 3-1 win for Juve, but Milan stays on top of the table because Inter Milan lost to Sampdoria earlier on Wednesday. Napoli lost to Spezia yesterday. Kind of crazy results in Italy yesterday. Lazio got a win. Ciro Immobile, who it doesn't get the hype that he should. Oh, we've got some breaking news. Ciro Immobile, just to finish that point, doesn't get the hype that he should. He scored 14 goals in the last 15 games. He's one of the best strikers in Europe as well. Gets left out of that conversation. As of 3 minutes ago, Inter Miami and Diego Alonso have mutually agreed to part ways. Like this is a surprise. He came out of a meeting, a month ago now, and thought he was fired. What in the world is Miami doing to where these things are this confusing? It's just mind-blowing. And I always go back to what Paul Tenorio said on Counterattack on SiriusXM FC. What he has heard, and it's the first time I've heard anybody say this, because everybody has talked up Miami as this model. Miami's been just a mess from very early, and a lot of it was out of their control. We talked about this on Soccer Over There. I think at times, David Beckham, the Moss brothers, all of this got too much criticism for things that they couldn't control. There were things they could control that they just blew it. And whether it's the ownership, all pushing in different directions, which is what Paul Tenorio alluded to, whether it was bad luck, it's a whole lot of bad luck, whether it was bad hires, whether it was bad signings, I don't know. Maybe all of the above. But they were a mess in year one, and they don't look like they're any closer to being not a mess in year two. And now they start 2021, a few weeks from when we expect training camps to open, with now parting ways with Diego Alonso. After a month of indecision, now you part ways? Like, these things affect your reputation. Mm-hmm. And what are you going to be able to sell your club on when it goes like this? It doesn't make any sense. First thing, as I'm clicking on the link, is I want to see who made the statement on Miami's behalf. Because I don't know. We've talked about it before. I don't know who's making these decisions. Jorge Mas is the one who goes on the record and makes the statement. On behalf of the organization, I want to thank Diego for his hard work and dedication during our inaugural season and wish him the best in his future endeavors. Yada, 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 yada. Boilerplate statement number 3 here, and there you go. Alonso was quoted in it, which does make you go back to feeling like there's at least some to the mutual agreed to part ways part. Going through the journey of this inaugural season with Inter Miami has been an incredible experience, and I am thankful to the ownership group for the opportunity. I want to thank the staff for their work and friendship, the players for their efforts on the field, and especially the fans for their constant support throughout the year. I wish everyone the best for this upcoming season. So, the only rumor we've heard on this now has been Phil Neville, who is good friends with David Beckham, who is one of the owners of Inter Miami, if you didn't know that. And they are former teammates. They are business partners in, is it Salford City, 4th Division team?
Yes. Yeah, Salford City.
They're buddies. And that's not a bad thing. Look, David Beckham's a unique situation in this league. You can't hold it against him that he played with great players and people who are involved in the game. You can't hold it against him that he's friends with people in the game. You know, a lot of times people hire their friends. You just might not know them. David Beckham's friends are famous, so you know who his friends are. I don't care. I don't care about that. Is he going to come in and do the job well? If he's the guy, he's going to be vocal. He was very vocal in charge of the England women's national team. I thought he was very good with the England women's national team. I've said that from the beginning. I thought they were the better team in the semifinal in 2019. I thought they outplayed the U.S. He elevated that program. And that's impressive, and he needs to get credit for that. And I don't care if it's women's football versus men's football. He was a good coach, and he got a lot out of that group, and I think they played hard for him. Did he always make it clear that he was using that as a stepping stone? Yeah, he did. And again, I don't have a problem with that. These are managers who have careers, and they can say they want to be in a place for 20 years, but the club will fire them the first chance they get if they need to, right? So you got to look out for you as a manager. I have no problem with Phil Neville looking at it as an opportunity to grow as a manager. If he gets this opportunity, look, he's going to have the same pressure that any manager would in Miami. It's a lot. It's a lot. He's not going to be able to come in there and coast. And now it's harder because, you know, he doesn't get the advantage that Alonso could have when he's starting a team. Now, Alonso was hired so late in the game, he didn't really craft the team very much. He doesn't get the advantage that Tata Martino did in 2017, where he was able to craft the team to a degree and have input on signings and be aligned with everything that was going on. He won't have that, and he's got to clean it up, and he's got a bunch of mismatched parts. Miami's a team of misfit toys at the moment. You've got a couple of veterans who you spend a lot of money on and have to produce, and Gonzalo Higuain didn't necessarily, and he got a red card after a match when you're pushing for the playoffs. Blaise Matuidi's effort in the postseason was embarrassing. That's a problem. Those are two guys that you're expecting to set the example. You paid a lot of money for two young Argentine players in Julian Carranza and Matias Pellegrini, and you didn't really do anything to develop them. They had kind of a wasted year. So what's the plan? And you know, if it's Beckham helping to craft it, if Beckham and Neville are there, then at least you should see some alignment. That's a good step because you didn't have that last year. It's incredibly dysfunctional to do what they have done all year, but especially since the end of the season, with Paul McDonough leaving, with Diego Alonso thinking he's fired or going to be fired. He's not fired. They're going to address it. They're going to think about it. A month passes, and then they finally mutually part ways. And now the rumors about Phil Neville start. It's incredibly dysfunctional, and they don't have a lot of time to make it functional going into 2021.
No, and you know, you mentioned Phil Neville as the name right now that we heard before what we saw with Diego Alonso this morning. And okay, so if this is where we are, I want to see if there's anyone else that gets mentioned, or if Neville is Beckham's guy and this is the path that they're taking. And if this is the path, I want to see with all of these misfit toys, with all of the veterans that were brought in, the high-priced veterans that were brought in, with the talent that was there that didn't get the chance to foster and develop at MLS. It's like, okay, so what do you want to do when it comes to 2021, and who's going to be the guy to do it? I'm now, I want to hear what it's going to be. I want to see what it's going to be. Tell me what's going on. And all right, so Alonso's out the door a month after he thought he was out the door, and it's a lot of confusion for me, and it's you got a lot of pieces and a lot of stuff going on all over the place, and so it's just like, look, get it together. Let's see what you have as a plan.
Yeah, Thad Dooley says, I do not see them pulling a Minnesota United and getting this back on track, although Minnesota were up front saying it would take time. Mm-hmm. They had a plan. I disagreed with their plan. I think they could have been more competitive earlier on, but they had a plan, and some of it revolved around building their stadium and being ready for that day, and I get it. And look, it's worked pretty well. I can't complain too much with the results that we've seen over the 3-4 years of Minnesota United. They did what they said they would do. And that's all you want. Miami has not. And Miami did not come in and say it would take time. They said they would be competitive day one, and they weren't, truly. Just has been a problem. I do think they will fix it because they have money. And money fixes everything. If you're a Minnesota, you have to have a good plan. You have to stick to the plan, and the plan better have been the right idea to begin with. If you have money, you can course correct your plans pretty fast, and they will. And they absolutely will. So there was a question Jason Nix asked about Phil Neville and his managerial experience real quick before we move on to some other things. Tom Robinson, by the way, of World Football Index, is joining us at 9:30 to talk about Gabriel Heinze. John, if you could retweet the article from World Football Index that Tom wrote about Heinze, that'd be awesome.
We'll do that.
Tweet it from Soccer Down Here, por favor. Phil Neville, managerial experience. He has a UEFA Pro license, so he's went through all of that. He's worked with England's youth national teams. He's worked with the U21s as part of the coaching staff. He was considered for the U20 job. He was interviewed for the managerial job at Everton in 2013, didn't get it. He was the first team coach of Manchester United under David Moyes. Ryan Giggs was part of that staff as well. England, and he was with Valencia as a coach under Nuno Espirito Santo in 2015, but only for a few months. That's what he's got. Then his time with England. And with England, took them to the semifinals of the World Cup. And that's a very big accomplishment. And it should be considered an accomplishment. I don't care. Some people are going to say, well, it's the women's game. It's a different game. What he did as a manager was impressive because I think he took a group that was becoming very talented and starting to get to another level and be a real contender. I think what he did is he made them believe that they were that. And that's not easy. I think where Phil Neville will be at his best is dealing with players. That's a good thing for a team that's going to be based around star players. Okay, good. He's been there. He's done that. He's been in those locker rooms. He's dealt with them. How are the tactics going to be? Are they going to be good enough? What is his staff going to look like? That's my number one question, is who is he going to bring with him to make this team better on the field? That's the question I have, and I don't know. We don't know if he's going to be the manager. We don't know when those answers will come. We'll have to see. Going back, I saw another one from Walchara. Want to confirm, is it possible, and this is on the Atlanta United front, is it possible to get Agustin Almendra and Moises Caicedo? First of all, that's getting greedy, Walchara. Second, there has been nothing about Agustin Almendra for about a month now. So don't worry about Agustin Almendra for right now. Agustin Almendra has returned to training at Boca. He hasn't played. There's still a lot of questions about what's going on there. There have not been any updates. There's not been any talk about a potential sale to Atlanta United. No, I do not think you could get both. I don't think you'd want to get both. It wouldn't really make sense. They do a lot of the same things. Almendra is a guy who's played just as much as a holding midfielder as Caicedo. I think both project to players who could be 8s in certain situations and 6s in others. I don't think you get both. I think you get one or the other. And if I'm getting one or the other, I'm getting Moises Caicedo. No question. Zero question. Moises Caicedo has actually played since November of 2019. That's a big thing. Caicedo has a higher ceiling, in my opinion. And I like what Almendra has done. But this whole thing of him not playing since November, and look, I know there was a managerial change, but Boca's played a lot of games in 2020. And he didn't want to come back into the team. There's a lot of weird questions with Almendra, and I don't get it. So I don't think you can get both unless you get really, really lucky with the financials. I wouldn't expect that. If you have to pick, it's Caicedo every single day. Every single day. Latest on Caicedo that I have seen, and Mataflow, if you see anything else, there was an outlet Extra. I've seen Extra and I've seen Diario Sport linked to these updates on Caicedo out of Ecuador. And they're a little confusing. I'll tell you why they're confusing. Now, it could be misunderstandings. The reports out of Manchester, first off, are that Manchester United is not going to make a move. That goes along with what the sporting director at Independiente del Valle said, that they had not made an offer. Okay. Those make sense when you connect dots. Reports from Extra in Ecuador, and I think Diario Sport as well, say that Everton lead the race. Well, everybody said Manchester United led the race for a long time too, so I don't know what that means. One thing I did see was that Extra included in a piece about this, and Mataflow, again, this is where maybe I think it's a little bit of a misunderstanding, but it makes me question the Everton part. In that piece, they said that Independiente del Valle was disappointed with the amount offered by Manchester United. Well, we know, at least what we've been told from the sporting director, there wasn't an offer. There's nothing to be disappointed with. Maybe they were disappointed that there wasn't an offer, and this is where confusion can reign. But that ticked off a box for me as to, well, wait a minute, let's see, is this a real report? Are they projecting some things? Are they guessing some things? The Atlanta United interest seems real. There's been enough smoke from enough different places that it seems real. We went through the depth charts. We went through who the MLS team could be. They really are the one that makes the most sense. They really are the one that would be able to make the kind of offer that the sporting director would mention. It really does check a lot of the boxes that it's realistic. Doesn't mean they get him. Doesn't mean that he doesn't decide to go to Europe instead, even if the offer is better from MLS. But it seems like Atlanta is that team. We'll see if Everton is it. Would he jump into the lineup and play at Everton? And if he's going to go to Everton, seemingly, that would be why he would go there. You know, he'd want to go there and he'd want to play. John, I mean, you've watched a decent bit of Everton. You know, do you think he would go in and immediately go into that lineup and get games?
Off the top of my head, no.
Why?
And I'm also looking at who else they're pursuing, and they're also looking at Sami Khedira. And
are they really? Have you heard anything updates on Khedira in a while? Because I know he was in England reportedly, and that was about a week ago.
Yeah,
it was right before the first.
The other day, and let me get the updated stuff out of the transfer news. But the discussion was that they were still chasing after Khedira, and if they're going to get one or the other, that to me, it was a lot of folks are torn. They want the experience of Khedira, but then you also see the younger talent that a guy like Caicedo would bring to the table, and they want the younger guy that can be there for a while, as opposed to the talent like a Khedira that is established and older. And so you have a fan base that is split at the moment when it comes to bringing them in. But I would think that if you are going to try to keep your place in the table, that you would want that, and like I said, this is just me thinking off the top of my head, that you would want that older talent. You would want the experienced talent, and you're not going to bring in a 19-year-old to help you get there, if that makes any sense.
I don't know if Carlo Ancelotti would have a problem playing the young player, because he's not just your average 19-year-old. He's coming in with a lot of experience. They are 7th in the table. They have been pretty good defensively. I wonder where they would see him as a holding midfielder or as an 8. It looks like pretty much they play a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
Very curious to see where this could go. And I don't know for sure. I don't know where this would fall exactly. A couple other things, because, man, everything wants to pop off right here before we get into Tom Robinson joining us. The Mark McKenzie deal is done. He is going to Henk in Belgium, which is the one that most people expected. Don't know if we've seen numbers yet on that. Have you, John? We'll try to get them in just a bit if you haven't. What do you got?
Jaime Ojeda came up this morning and said that it was $6 million. And I'm waiting for the info to load. It's $6 million with another possible $2 million in escalators plus a percentage of the pass.
Well, Philly would keep a percentage of the pass.
Right.
Because otherwise Henk is kind of dumb if they're only buying part of the pass.
Yeah. Genk is paying $6 million.
Oh, you're going to go with the hard G.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Like I just go with the hard G.
Because it fits your whole thing with Belgian clubs and how you pronounce G's. So don't do it.
Correct.
They're not involved.
So $6 million and another $2 million in escalators plus a percentage, according to Jaime Ojeda.
Okay. There's more in MLS. Luis Robles has retired. Kevin Molino is reportedly going to Columbus Crew. There's a lot of stuff happening. We'll deep dive into MLS in hour number 2, along with the rest of the things from around the world. You had Boca and Santos in a scoreless draw. Santos is not very happy about it because they should have had a penalty, and I agree with him. I think they should have had a penalty. Manchester City in the Gummy Bear Cup final for the 4th time in a row, and it is Pep and Jose again, and they've won
26th time.
Yeah, they've won like all of the Gummy Bear Cups since it became a Gummy Bear Cup. It seems like it's craziness. We'll see. We will see where all that goes. We'll keep you posted. But let's get Mateo working, and let's get Tom Robinson on the line with us from World Football Index. We had to reschedule with Tommy. He was going to join us last week, and it would have been on the 31st, and things got crazy. So we are getting Tom on now. Great piece that he wrote over at World Football Index on Gabriel Heinze. Tom Robinson, thanks for joining Soccer Down Here. We appreciate it.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on to talk about a manager who I'm a huge fan of. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's start there. Your piece was great at World Football Index. How did you become a fan of what Gabriel Heinze is doing as a manager?
Well, I suppose it probably all goes all the way back to 2011 when I was living out in Buenos Aires. For the first time, I was there for the year, and Vélez were my team at that time. They had some great players, Maxi Morales, Santiago Silva, and they had Ricardo Gareca in charge, who the Peru boss, and they were playing some fantastic stuff, and I kind of fell in love with them there and like to keep an eye on them. So ever since, I've been following them closely, and then obviously since Gareca left, they kind of went into a bit of a not necessarily spiral, but they weren't the side that they used to be up there challenging for titles. And then Heinze came in and he completely turned around the fortunes of the club. They were sort of looking over their shoulders at relegation. And then sort of slowly he got them back up the table, getting them continental spots, challenging for the title. And not only that, but playing a brilliant brand of football as well. So that's, where most of my viewing of him has come. Obviously, I've watched him at Argentinos as well, being someone who writes and podcasts on Argentinian football. But obviously, with that extra special, enjoyment of Vélez, that's why I've kept an extra close eye on him.
How would you, Tom, describe him as both a coach and an individual from a personality perspective?
Well, in terms of his personality, he is strict. He doesn't take. He doesn't suffer fools gladly. He will employ a strict system, but at the same time, he's really big on creating a good harmony with the group. He is very good on man management. He's not a disciplinarian who's my way or the highway. He will create close personal bonds with players, look to get the best out of them, and obviously he's got quite a defined tactical style, although he doesn't like to focus too much more on tactics per se. It's more kind of interpreting roles and the positions and sort of getting a brand of attacking football, possession based, high energy, and that's obviously been a very positive and a successful model so far, and hopefully he's going to be able to implement that at Atlanta.
Yeah, I think what people are expecting here in Atlanta, it has been interesting to see what people have tried to define that as, because we have Tata Martino as a touchstone, and Gabriel played for him, and they come from kind of the same idea of the way they want to coach their teams, although I think there's some pretty big differences. You had Frank de Boer here, who gets the positional play idea but comes at it from a very different approach. Give us just a little bit of how you saw Vélez. If you were going to describe the philosophy at Vélez under Gabriel Heinze, how would you define it?
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of the philosophy was, again, that positional play that he does like to implement. As I mentioned before, it's hard pressing, it is possession based, maybe not quite as vertical a style as Bielsa, but certainly there's a lot of tenets of Bielsa's game that he's taken on board, and I think of all the young Argentinian managers coming through, he's probably the closest to Bielsa in terms of style of play. They do like to stretch the play, switch it as well, transition quickly, and it's all about creating numerical and positional advantages and overload. So for him, the number five in Argentina, the defensive midfield role, I know there's some slight changes around the world, so I'll try and avoid just referring it to by the number, but
you're good.
It's all good.
That's a really important role for him, because he's the guy who helps them build from the back, because building from the back kind of gives them a few different advantages in terms of getting them higher up the pitch as a team, which means that they can get the ball into dangerous areas, and also if they lose the ball, they can then win it back quickly higher up the field as well. So it gives them that really good platform. So he likes to have centre backs who are good on the ball, a goalkeeper who can use his feet, and obviously that number five just knitting everything together. Tends to play with inverted wingers as well. So certainly I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen with Barco as to where he's going to play for Atlanta, because he's a guy with a lot of promise, and there's high hopes for him in Argentina. And typically more of a main number 9 up front. So someone who's more of maybe a physical number 9 presence. Although, again, I'm sure with someone like José Martínez, he's going to be able to fit him in the way that's going to get the best out of him. So, yeah, they do dominate the ball. In his time at Vélez, he, I think by the end of his spell there, they were the side with one of the highest pass percentage in the league. They'd, I think, the best pass completion, about 80% of the passes finding their targets. One of the highest possessions. They also received very few shots as well. So it's not like he's just gunning forward and leaving big spaces at the back. He is someone who looks after the defensive side of the game, which again you saw at Argentinos. They had an amazing defense as they romped the league there as well. So in terms of the style, that's a big thing. And also I'd say he is someone who focuses a lot on youth. I think he does select his jobs quite carefully and wisely, and Argentinos Juniors are one of the greatest Argentinian clubs at producing players, from Maradona to Riquelme to Redondo. They're all graduates of that academy, and Vélez as well have had a long storied history in bringing through young players, which is obviously great. I think they take on his ideas a bit more readily, and they're willing to do the hard running as well. So certainly the young players in the Atlanta squad, I think, are going to really benefit from that. And also from a purely sort of business point of view, he's very good at turning over a profit as well. So I'm sure the guys upstairs are going to be happy about that as well.
Tom, you mentioned folks like Ezequiel Barco and Joseph Martinez. I think that, when we look at the front four and the possibilities there, you have And Eric Lopez, part of the discussion, you mentioned not afraid to play the kids, so to speak, play the younger players. You've got a Jürgen Damm who could be out on the right-hand side. You've got a Marcelino Moreno who I think could flourish in this as well. So I think that there are a lot of pieces here that Gabriel Heinze looks forward to, at least in that front four, to be able to play with here coming up.
Oh, certainly. I think going forward, there's so many good options, and Moreno is another one who I think would fit Heinze's system and his style of play quite nicely. Someone who can play out wide if he needs to, but can also occupy a number of different roles and is going to bring that dynamism going forward. So I think going forward, there's certainly no problems there with the roster that he's got at the moment. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think about the kind of defensive midfield role. I mean, I know that Moises Caicedo has been linked with the club, and that would be an incredible signing in my opinion. But I mean, where do you think the areas that Heinze might need to look at maybe a slightly different personnel would be?
That's it. That's the one. And that was a position that you've had here the last couple of years, not really a consistent player there. We've had Jeff Lorenowitz, an MLS veteran who has left the club, end of his contract. He kept pushing his way back into the lineup and performing very, very well, but now he's gone. Eric Remedi, who came from Bonfield, has played well when he first got here. He's had some up and down performances in the last year and a half. You have Emerson Heineman, who plays a little bit further forward, but a former U.S. Youth International, spent time at Fulham. You've got Mateo Sosetu, who came from Brazil, who's a really interesting one because it took him a while last year to get going. He had injuries early on. The visa process took a while. I think he's kind of a raw figure that we don't know exactly where he'll fit in yet. But and Mo Adams, another one Mo Adams is the one I think we're leaving out of the discussion a lot. But in terms of that range and covering ground and being mobile and being able to do a lot of different roles, Mo Adams fits that role, but he's maybe the least heralded of who's here. The Caicedo rumors immediately grabbed all of our attention. We've been talking about him for a while with Libertadores and national team play. Before that, it was Almendra from Boca who had been linked to Atlanta. Are those the kind of guys that, from what you saw at Vélez, fit the profile, of a Gaston Jimenez? We saw Gago in that role for Heinze at Vélez. How would you describe what he's looking for there?
Yeah, I think certainly Caicedo and Almendra would be upgrades. I mean, I must admit, I'm probably not an expert on some of those other options you mentioned that Atlanta have already got, but certainly I think he looks for someone who can sort of fulfill a number of functions as a defensive midfielder. There's times where maybe if he's coming up against a forward line who are maybe a bit narrow and it's a side that want to keep it compact, someone a defensive midfielder who can slot in between the centre backs and play from there. There's been even times where he's played sort of a 3-3-1-3 and more of a Bielsa fixture there, and whether someone like Jimenez did play in the centre of in the defence there. So that's an option. He does like, if maybe the wide forwards are doing the pressing from the opposition, someone who can be a bit further forward from the centre backs, receive it, turn under pressure, evade the press, and then obviously someone with a really good passing range. So Almendra is an interesting one because he came through with so much hype and he really looked the real deal. He looked like he had all those physical and technical qualities to be, maybe the best young midfielder at Boca since Bentancur came through as kind of a guy who you thought maybe initially was going to be a playmaker, but actually found a role deeper. And for one reason or another, it's not really worked out at Boca for him. So I think that would be a great project if Heinze could get him in there. There's a lot of other good young defensive midfield options in the Argentinian league, but you do wonder if he'll go with someone tried and tested that he's played with before. And I think there's a number of guys who could do a job, not just in defensive midfield, but in defence and other parts of the pitch. Moises Caicedo would be just an absolute dream signing. I think he's, with no disrespect to MLS at all, ready for Europe. Maybe not being a starter at someone like Man United, who he's being linked with, but certainly the way he's developed and evolved just in the last 12 months has been absolutely incredible to watch and to see him playing such a key role for Ecuador already is fantastic. So again, Atlanta have come out with these marquee signings in the past. Certainly Barco, when he moved, that took me by surprise and felt like a real statement. So if they could get Caicedo, who again, by all intents and purposes, seems to be available at a reasonable fee for his talent level, certainly, and certainly with an absolutely huge resale figure, I think that would make, that would be such a statement of intent from Atlanta and would really get them this new era under Heinze going, because Caicedo can play that role in further back, but he's also shown that he's a great box-to-box midfielder and someone who can contribute further up the field. So, yeah, that's probably the area I'm most looking forward to seeing what Heinze does, because it's not going to necessarily make or break the side, but I think it's going to be key in making them a successful unit.
Well, and Tom, you mentioned Gabriel Heinze as a manager, and I think that one of the things is we're in the Caicedo discussion here. I think that the gravity of having someone like a Gabriel Heinze as a manager can attract players who are looking to go to Europe but can use Major League Soccer as that place where they can play now, get in a year or two, then the club that invests can send them on to the European market and the European theater to play. I think that having a guy like Heinze can aid in that as well, where you can bring in that young South American talent and have them prove themselves in North America, then move to Europe right now in the current marketplace.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think that goes without saying. He's a big draw, not only for the fans to get the team playing well again, but young players will know him as a great player, but also as such a great young coach who can improve them as well as giving them a different platform. Caicedo is one that, as I mentioned before, I think doesn't necessarily need that exposure, shall we say, but I think there's lots of other players like Almendra and like plenty of other options we've got in Argentina that could see that, and that would be maybe more of a motivation for them. Caicedo is slightly different, but again, it's not going to do his future career prospects any harm at all, and certainly it would be a fascinating storyline to follow.
One other thing that maybe gets lost under the radar a little bit as we talk about Heinze's philosophy and how his first team will look. I've always been impressed with the stories about how he has looked at the academies and the youth teams and not just, gave it a cursory glance, but actually pays a lot of attention to that. And in Atlanta, you have an academy now that is starting to develop players who are getting called into youth national teams like George Bello. You've got a lot of players playing with the second team, Atlanta United 2, in the USL Championship at 15, 16, 17 years old. Is that an area where you feel maybe could be one of the biggest impacts that Heinze has on Atlanta?
Definitely. I think that's always struck me as one of his key skills is bringing through young players, working on them, putting faith in them. And, we've seen it at Vélez, the likes of Monito Vargas, who came through and went to Espanyol. Nico Dominguez, he turned into a national team player. Even Nicolas Gonzalez, when he was at Argentinos, a little-known player, still a bit of a left-field selection by Argentina, although he's at Stuttgart now. But he was one of the first guys who gave Gonzalez a chance in different roles as well, and really developed him as an all-round player. So I think that I'm sure that came into Heinze's thinking, and I know that both the Atlanta management and the upper structure of the club and Heinze, they spent a long time making sure this was the right fit for one another, and I'm 100% sure that he's chosen Atlanta because he sees that depth of youth talent and knows that as well as having a bit of money to spend, I'm sure he'll also have that really, really good base. And I think that's another sort of comparison you see between him and Bielsa is that they choose their clubs wisely. They're not afraid to use the resources that they've got, and I think they always look to have that young, hungry squad that's got good technical talent. And I think that's probably the reason that I'd be most positive about this move.
I admit, Tom, that this next question is a bit of a philosophical question, but for you, what's it been like to see Heinze's coaching career and philosophy and all of his tenets continue to grow and evolve over time? What's it been like to cover the growth and the advancement of Heinze as a manager?
I mean, it's been really exciting because, one of the best things about covering Argentinian and South American football is you get to see a lot of young players and young coaches making their first steps, really crucial development steps that obviously can go on to great things sometimes. And I think the fact that he's not only able to really quickly turn around teams in terms of their results on the pitch, but also implement a style, not just in one club, but he's managed to do it in a couple of clubs now. That's the reason why I'm so excited about him as a manager. The way he talks about football as well, he's very in depth, he's very intelligent. He gives he'll give plenty of time to people and to young players. There's some great videos of him, taking youth side games around and sort of just, properly not just treating them as kids, but treating them as future professionals. And I think it's rare, especially all around football now. There's a lot of short-termism. I think we see that all over basically, and Argentina is no different at all. Clubs don't always give their managers room to breathe and time to develop, but I think his excellence kind of ensures that he is given that time, that he is able to implement his ideas, and it's not just a results driven thing. There's more to it. There's that, like you said, that philosophical level where he's trying to create a community, an identity, and I think that's what makes him stand out from his peers. There's a lot of good young managers coming through, but he was one that straight away wins over the crowd through his personality, his style of football. So it's a really, really exciting time. I don't want to over egg it, but I don't think that you could pick a better young manager for Atlanta right now.
Do you think this kind of hire and I mean, I'll include the Caicedo rumors and other rumors about young South American players. Do you think the perception of MLS is changing worldwide?
Yeah, for sure. I think initially when we saw MLS kind of switch its focus from maybe bringing more veteran European stars to bringing some of the young players. Obviously, we saw that with Almiron and plenty of other players, Barco as well at Atlanta. But it seems like Atlanta were pioneers almost in that respect, and pretty much every MLS club is now following suit. I think before, it was certainly from an Argentinian point of view, it was more kind of you guys who had maybe not made it in Europe but were probably too good for the Argentinian league, Diego Valeri or someone like that. And I think there's still a place for those kind of guys in their mid-20s who are clearly good and probably good enough for Europe, but can be real stars in the MLS, like Reynoso, for example. He's been fantastic. But I think now more and more, I think initially it was a kind of, that's a bit odd. People are going up to the US rather than going across to Europe. But I think more and more they're seeing it as a really good pathway, especially for maybe not the very, very elite talents like Lautaro Martinez, Ezequiel Palacios, but the guys who are maybe just that rung below, who are still great and have a huge career ahead of them. But I think they're seeing that as a bigger window to the wider world, a different style of football to show they can adapt, and also the financial side as well, in terms of maybe not necessarily higher wages all the time, but certainly guaranteed and regular wages, which you can't always get. There's a lot of clubs that aren't in the best economic position, and I think there's something to be said for giving yourself a kind of solid base and thinking, what, I can go here at 18, I can spend 3 or 4 years and I'm still quite a young prospect. So it's definitely changing. I think people are opening their mind up to it more, and it's rivaling certainly a lot of kind of second tier European leagues in terms of a good first stepping stone.
Tom, I can't thank you enough for the time. We kept you a little bit longer than I had promised. I really, really appreciate it. Let everybody know where they can follow you. Let everybody know where they can follow you and everything that you're doing at World Football Index and everything else you got going on.
Yeah, so as well as following World Football Index on Twitter, you can find me at TomRobbo89. So I'm doing lots of stuff with the World Football Index guys. We do sort of regular podcasts on the Libertadores, and I also do some scouting spotlight podcast as well, looking at kind of some of the best young players all across South America. And then also over at Golazo Argentino, with my colleague Peter Coates, we focus primarily on Argentinian football there. So we do a sort of a semi-regular podcast, and we do some bits for Y Scout as well, the scouting platform there. So lots that you can see on there, just general ramblings, and if you like Aston Villa as well, I'll be chatting about that plenty as well.
There's a lot of Villa fans in the U.S. that we're finding. Yeah. They've come out of the woodwork this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, the upturn in form is definitely going to help that, but maybe the sort of links to the US with Brad Guzan obviously at Atlanta, and our former owner as well, Randy Lerner. I think there's probably been a bit of interest there, but yeah, it's I'm glad that more and more people are discovering the beauty of Villa as well.
Well, let's talk again soon. Thanks for coming on, and I'll reach out soon. Cool. Thank you, Tom.
Cheers. Bye.
Be good.
Tom Rabo, make sure you're following him on Twitter. Tom Rabo 89.
89.
I remembered it.
89.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Tom.
Be good.
Cheers.
All right, Tom Robinson. Make sure you're following World Football Index as well. Lots of kind of under the radar stuff at World Football Index, and I've been really impressed with the written pieces, but also the podcast, everything that they're doing. James Knowlton does great work over there as well. So we'll be checking in with Tom on a regular basis to get caught up on everything in South America, get caught up on just everything in general, and pick his brain as he's watching from afar the Gabriel Heinze era here in Atlanta. All right, we're going to take your questions for the rest of the show. We've got a lot of different MLS things to get into. We've got some other things from around the world to talk about as well. I know it's a little bit early, John, but let's go ahead and do it because it's a good time to drop it in. You can stretch if you need to and all those things.
All right.
You ready?
Oh, why not? Let's give it a shot.
All right. Do Steve Apolinsky proud.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place that you need to go to get all the information that you need, and it is Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. How do you get said information, you ask? Well, I will tell you. A couple different ways. You can get a free consultation by picking up the telephone, giving them a call, 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com, or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small. Type in aa-legal.com, hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances your screen. 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison. Although we have to add in a leap second this year because apparently the Earth rotated a little too quickly for the rest of us. Pop-up windows pop up. 24/7, 365 and a quarter because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up. You can get your questions answered there as well if you choose. So email, phone, web. 3 different ways to get in touch with Steve Apolinsky and Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama. Recognized as legal by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. There's your pin movement. Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. The website is aa-legal. There it is. .com.
You always break the fourth wall. I think it hurts you with the judges. You just have to keep going.
Well, it's because when I stop talking, then I can finally hear where the beat is. It's not something that I hear 50-50. That's the problem.
You got to act like you've been there, John.
Nah.
Well, then the judges are going to get you with 5.2s and 6s and 6.9s. And
we're going into decimal points now?
Yeah, these people get into it. 5.6. I mean, it's getting big. You got -1.
I feel like artistic impression is getting mobbed here at the 5 points.
I'm telling you, you're getting
technical merit and artistic impression, 2 separate grades.
Negative points for being off track. Negative points for the phone number being a little too fast. You're getting all kinds of negatives. Sorry. And now we're getting bots. You attracted bots because of that performance, John.
Excellent.
No, that's not excellent.
Are they Swedish?
I don't know where they're from. It's It looks like Cam Newton's invaded the Twitch pitch with the wingdings a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Let's block these guys.
Block.
Or gals. Block the bots. They're blocked. Okay. 5.293 from Montislow.
Okay. Interesting.
4
taking it to the 10,000ths of a point.
Nick Alifi gave you a 4.7 because you attracted the bots.
Okay, understandable. See, now that I can understand. If I'm attracting bots, I understand about getting lower numbers than usual.
3TH gives you an 8. The leap second tangent warms my pedantic nerd heart.
See? Yeah, I found
6.
out about that yesterday, apparently. The Earth, and this is like the second time in the last handful of years that the Earth has rotated around the sun a little faster than the scientists are used to. So they're having to add a leap second at the end of the calendar year to get the Earth back on its clock.
Okay. Sure. Where do we find that second? Do we have to stutter at New Year's?
I think so. Seacrest will go C.
You have to draw it out.
Yeah, he'll go Ryan C. Crest.
You have to hold it for one Mississippi. Craziness.
I think so.
Man. Okay.
Dunwoody High School.
That's good. Why now? So first it was Mindy Kaling. Now you're going to hate on Ryan Seacrest.
Well, because someone said on New Year's Rockin' Eve they were talking about his private school upbringing, and I'm like, oh no, he went to Dunwoody High School. He was a public school kid.
Did he try to say he was a private school kid?
Someone did to him in a conversation.
Did he correct them?
No, he did not.
That's disappointing, Ryan Seacrest. Okay, you can attack Ryan Seacrest. That's fine. You get the permission. That's good.
Cool.
All right. Lots of stuff. Where do you want to jump first? Because we could go into pretty much anything at this point. The table is clear.
Yeah. Jason Nix comes in on the Twitter site. He says, awesome to hear a knowledgeable voice on Heinze and what to expect from the new gaffer. Great convo.
Yeah, Tom was great. We'll get Tom back on a semi-regular basis if we can pull that off. Just working out with his schedule and such. He's a busy man. But the idea would be every couple of weeks if we can do that. Because I'd like to... I think what's going to be interesting for Atlanta fans with Gabriel Heinze in charge is we didn't really see this as much with Tata Martino because people don't nerd out on Tata's tactics and his philosophy. They do when it comes to Bielsa. They do when it comes to Heinze. So you're going to see the usual reporting from people here in Atlanta, but you're going to see a lot of people breaking down the way Atlanta United plays from outside of Atlanta, from outside of the United States. And they're going to go deep diving into it because that's what they have done with Heinze's career. He has attracted a lot of the very theoretical, very, kind of soccer philosophy nerding out. Like, he's attracted that because he is, as Tom said, and as we've talked about, maybe the closest to Marcelo Bielsa that we have seen since Bielsa became Bielsa. And that's going to get attention. That's going to get a lot of attention. He really is thoughtful about the way he approaches the game. So that's going to attract people who are thoughtful about the way they see the game and the way they think about the game. So it's going to be interesting. And we're going to try to get some of those kinds of voices where we can because it's a completely different perspective. For me, a lot of times, I'm living it and breathing it every day. I'm seeing games. I'm studying it super close. I like to hear from people who are seeing it with a different set of eyes. I like to hear from people who see the game and break it down because they're a step removed from it. They have a different approach to it. So Tom, and there will be others too. There's others out there who are very excited about Gabriel Heinze coming to Atlanta, and they will be talking about it on a regular basis and talking about how those matches go. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, and when I went back and I went through Tom's article twice just to see if I didn't miss anything the first time through, and one of the video links that is there is a conversation that Heinze has with youth players about a match. He was there watching his squad, and he goes and talks to the team that lost, I believe, in this particular match that he was watching. And he's having a discussion with them about the game and just his philosophical approach and his manner and demeanor in talking with children and young adults about it. I thought it was just very, very cool how he's more than happy to discuss the game with young adults and children and elementary school kids, and how they can take the day and turn it into another one tomorrow about how they enjoy the game. And I just thought that was a very, very cool thing to see about how he views the game and how he embraces the game and wants others to embrace it. And you're never too young to be in a position to learn to do that.
I like the way that, I think it's the way Heinze feels about the game that attracts me the most to it, because it's in his blood, and he doesn't hide that. I think coaches in this country who have come up in this country, just the way we talk about soccer in this country, runs away from that too much. I mean, I'm kind of struck when I watch, and it's not just an Argentine thing, but I don't have an Argentine or an Ecuadorian equivalent or a Colombian equivalent or a Brazilian equivalent of Caicedo in front of me on a regular basis. I mean, Caicedo is very different than Tudayene in the way they approach it, but there's some similarities. They talk and argue and feel the game in a very different way than we talk about it here. And it's okay to be emotional about this. And that's what's interesting about Heinze, because he's incredibly smart in the way he sees the game. He's very thoughtful about the way that he talks to his players, the way he was talking to those kids, the work he puts in to prepare a team for a game. But he also puts his soul into his work.
Yeah.
And I think with a lot of coaches here in all sports, but especially in soccer, there's this kind of distance to it. It's almost like we take a step back. It's almost like we're a little cynical. It's almost like we're a little jaded. I mean, the general soccer voice in this country is very cynical, and I hate it with a passion, because I hate cynicism with a passion. We need to get worked up about the game here. We need to feel it that way. Our players will benefit from it. The game will benefit from it. People don't hide from the emotional feel of college football in this country, especially in the South. Paul Feinbaum made a career out of it, and he got it. I mean, look, his radio show is brilliant because he understood. Let these people yell and scream and show you how they feel, and yes, some of them are crazy, but he captured something that wasn't really being put out there in that way. You don't have anything like that for soccer. It's like, instead of being passionate about it, you have to be cynical about it.
Yeah.
You have to look down on the American game, and it's not as good as England. It's not as good as something else. I hope that, and this is a huge goal. It's not something that Gabriel Heinze can work on, because he's got a lot of other things to do. But I hope him being here, I hope he gives a little bit of that. I hope we get some of that. I hope we get rid of some of the cynicism and some of this negativity about American soccer. And I hope we're hopeful about it. I hope that we're passionate about it, because he wouldn't have come here if he thought that he would struggle. He came here because he thought he would have all the materials to put in the work that he wants to put in, build the team that he wants to build, play the way he wants to play, and win. And yes, winning is a component of it. It's not the only thing, but it is a big component of what he wants to do. He wants trophies. He wants to win. That's what any competitor wants. But yes, he wants to do it with his way, his style, his brand, the way he believes the game should be played. Because it's not just, I like this and I can coach it. It's, he believes that's the way the game should be played. And he will fight for that. And he will argue with you about that. And I love that about him. So I'm excited. I hope we have a different feel about the game here. I really do. And we'll see. It might take time. It's going to be an interesting culture clash, because he's a different guy than we've seen in a lot of managers in this league in its history.
Yeah, and I'm glad you used the word soul, because you look at soul and emotion and passion, and you're seeing all of these things in the videos that come out with Heinze and press conferences and things like that. And to see those kinds of things I'm looking forward to it when it's here full time. So, and yes, the notion that's also out there where he doesn't suffer fools. And so, that's a part of it too. But, I'm looking forward to the passion that he's going to be bringing here.
Okay, we did not get to speak about Aston Villa with Tom because there's a little bit of news that has come up. Rob Harris of the AP is reporting that there is a significant coronavirus outbreak at Villa. Large number of first-team players and staff returned positive tests on Monday. More positives today. Training ground is closed. Training ahead of the Liverpool FA Cup game is canceled. That game's tomorrow, and it's not looking good at the moment. Keep an eye on that one. There are other FA Cup games that are in doubt. There's one that will not happen, Derby County. Okay, there's two that will not happen. Derby County's first-team squad self-isolating. Wayne Rooney, interim manager, self-isolating. They've got an outbreak. They're not playing on Saturday against sixth-tier Chorley. Several players tested positive on Monday. Closed the training ground. Very similar here. Southampton not playing?
Yeah, Southampton's FA Cup third-round tie with Shrewsbury will not go ahead as scheduled Saturday after the League One side received, quote, a number, end quote, of positive COVID-19 test results this week. Meeting of the FA's professional game board scheduled for next week, at which point a decision will be made regarding potentially rescheduling a fixture. FA Cup action, third-round Premier League clubs enter the competition, 14 sides EFL Championship or below. That's where they are. Presents an additional challenge as few clubs in the lower levels of English football have access to the same twice-weekly testing regimes as the folks in the Prem. So that's what we're looking at with that. So Southampton and Shrewsbury not playing as well on Saturday.
Yeah, and there's going to be more. I'd be blown away if the Villa game goes ahead with Liverpool. Liverpool will probably go through. We're still in a pandemic. As Kefsey reminds us, we're still in a pandemic. We're going to have to deal with these things, and players and staff are going to have to be very, very careful with all of this stuff. There's just no way around. Update on Christian Pavone and LA Galaxy and Boca. So it sounds like that could be back under negotiation. Now that Greg Vanney is in place. There was some talk yesterday, and I'm reading some of the quotes from Dennis DeClose, the sporting director of the Galaxy, and he said it still could happen. He said the conditions will not be public in terms of, I guess, the negotiation. But he did leave the door open that it still could happen. I mean, he's not going to play in Libertadores for Boca. He is probably not going to play in the Copa Diego Armando Maradona with one more round to play in the second phase and possibly a final for Boca if they get through. That's going to get really crowded, and we'll give you that update for the games this weekend. But so they've got time. I mean, the window for MLS will be open for a while. It's not like they even have to get this done right this second. Maybe they're able to get a better deal if they wait it out. I don't know, but keep an eye on Pavone to the Galaxy. It still could happen, but now that Vanney is there, and I don't know if this had been agreed to for a while, and he's been talking about what he wants to do with the squad, they got a lot of work to do. The LA Galaxy have, many more questions than just Christian Pavone. A lot of teams are making a lot of signings. The LA Galaxy are not one of them. And the LA Galaxy have 14 players under contract right now. They do not have a starting level goalkeeper. They maybe don't have a starting level left back. They do have two center backs with one reserve. They do have a starting right back, but no depth. They do have Jonathan Dos Santos and Sebastian Lletget and Efrain Morales as central midfielders. That's a pretty good trio. You got Sasha Kljestan as a backup still okay. No depth in holding midfield. You've got Jonathan Perez, who is not a starting level winger. You've got Cameron Dunbar, who is a backup forward. And you've got Chicharito. And you don't have a right winger, period. And you've got about 10 to 15 open spots on the roster.
Yeah.
So, Greg, you got a lot of work to do. Dennis DeClose, you got a lot of work to do. I don't know what to expect out of the LA Galaxy. I don't think we'll know until maybe the summer window, to be honest.
Yeah, and Greg Vanney's wanting to build a club in what he wants to do and have the Galaxy go back to where they were. What was it? After Bruce Arena left, what were the numbers? Was it 66 players that had appearances?
Probably. It's been horrible. I mean, he left in 16, at the end of 16. So you've got 17, 18, 19, and the craziness of 20. It feels like maybe there would be more. But it just, Guillermo Barros Escaloto never got it together. Siggy didn't do a good job there either in his last job. It's just not good. And they're not supposed to be in the situation. You have two historic grandes of Major League Soccer in DC United and the LA Galaxy, and both are not where they're supposed to be. Has the league passed them by?
I would say right now, yeah.
DC it has in general, and DC's going to have to spend more or produce more internally to get back into that conversation. I think the Galaxy can fix it, again, because money fixes everything. They can fix it quickly, and they will spend, and they have spent. They just haven't spent well. Where will they be, and how quick can Greg Vanney get them there? I don't think there's any expectations for winning things this year.
Yeah.
I think it's a 2-year project to get back into competition for them. You got 15 guys under contract right now. 14. I mean, you got nothing. You don't have like 1, 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 starting positions, and you have no depth.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to take 2 years for them to be competitive, and then we see. They can spend the money to fix that quickly. We'll see if they do, because they've got a crosstown rival that has made them somewhat irrelevant. And that's a shame for a team that's been a big team. Greg Vanney will do well if he has the right players to work with. He will do well. He's a very good coach. But is he going to get the right players to work with? And is he going to be involved in making those decisions? I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. One other rumor that hasn't gotten quite as much play in MLS circles, Franco Cervi is rumored to be on the move to MLS. FC Dallas was a destination at one point, but now it's looking like it would be New York City. He is currently at Benfica, 26-year-old winger. I'm a little surprised by that. I didn't expect him to be coming to MLS at that age, but New York City and Benfica, I believe City Football Group and Benfica have either worked together a good bit or have some kind of an arrangement. If he's not getting time at Benfica and he's available, it would make sense. He could come in and be that replacement on the roster for Alexandru Mitrița, who is out on loan and probably not coming back. So, you could see it. Dallas didn't make sense to me when that rumor came up. New York City, yeah, I can buy into this.
Yeah, in the past, it looks like Ruben Diaz, Nicolas Otamendi. So there have been Manchester City or City Football Group Benfica transactions in the past.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they had an official relationship or not. If you want to, I mean, there's plenty of things that you can look at and watch and read to get angry today. If you want to add one more to the list or you want something different to be angry about, read the FA's written reasons on why they suspended Edinson Cavani, and you'll get angry. It's really stupid. It's really, really stupid. When you combine it with some of the other decisions or non-decisions they've made, it's really, really stupid. Incredibly stupid. So they should probably just stop talking and probably not do stupid things and probably get some people who actually have a clue in there to make these decisions. We'll see. But no, we're not going to dig into it too deep. Just go read it if you need a break or you need something else new to get angry about, because it's horrible. It's really horrible. Other MLS updates, news, what have you. We'll get into Kevin Molino in a minute because that one surprised me. I did not expect to see the Columbus Crew grab him, and we'll talk about what the Crew look like for 2021. AJ De La Garza goes to the New England Revolution. Not a crazy shock. Played a lot for Bruce Arena. And Bruce will bring guys that he has worked with before into his teams consistently. He's always done it. De La Garza is a guy who can play on the outside, can play as a center back. I think a good 20 starts a year kind of guy and can come off the bench in a lot of different positions. That's a smart get for that team. You're seeing some speculation start to pop up about who could go to Miami. Everything that we had heard originally was Phil Neville. They did go after Argentine managers before. I do think that at least what has been portrayed as David Beckham being more involved here would point you to Phil Neville. But do they make another run at Marcelo Gallardo, who could be at the end of a cycle at River Plate? Do they make a run after a manager that a lot of people have made a run after, in Hernan Crespo? A lot of people are talking about Hernan Crespo and what he's doing at Defensa y Justicia. He's got them in the semifinals of the Copa Sudamericana. That's tonight. We'll talk about that in a minute. He's been linked to the potential opening in Chile. He's been linked to other jobs. He's been linked to Racing. He's been linked to Independiente as well. Could Miami make a run after him? That would be a very interesting one to go after. Or, as Felipe Cardenas has speculated on Twitter, does he wait to see where Gallardo goes? Because he could be the replacement at River. Don't know. I don't think Miami's going to go in that direction. I think the Phil Neville thing didn't come out of nowhere. I think if Beckham's making these decisions, then he's going to go to people that he trusts. Because it's his money on the line. It's his reputation on the line. And he's got things to fix. So he's going to go to people he trusts. And I don't really care about the makeup of the roster. If we're going to start playing this game that you can't bring in a manager from a different country if there's a bunch of Argentines on the roster, that's silly. And if it's an accurate issue, then it's on the players to be adults. Like, to be perfectly honest, if that's an actual issue, then these players are not players who will make it to the highest levels of the game, because you don't pick managers based off the makeup of your squad totally. You don't say, well, these guys have to have an Argentine manager, so that's the direction we got to go. What if Blaise Matuidi says, I got to have a French manager? You know, I mean, you're paying him a lot of money. How much sway does he have? I don't. Well, he's Argentine. That's the point, yeah. Look, if that's a problem, then that's to a large degree on the players. Phil Neville should come in and get the respect of the players. And if they don't give it to him, then that's on them. These are professionals. They have to respect the guy who's going to be in charge of running the team. If he doesn't continue to keep that respect, different conversation. But if they don't respect him because of where he's from straight up, come on, stop. Got to be better than that. And that's on the players. That's not good enough. We will see what happens with Miami. My money would be on Phil Neville right now. Yep. I don't know if you have anything on Odds Checker about who the next Miami manager will be. Probably not. But I would be looking at Phil Neville. We'll see. Just because, and I'm just connecting dots at this point. There's nothing I know about it. I'm just connecting dots. I think that's the direction they'll go. Well, are you actually looking to see if there's an update on the Miami manager?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's odds. Hey, people are going to want to put odds on everything, but that's the thing. It's like when you're sitting there and you're investing an incredible amount of money into a product. It doesn't matter what the product is. If this is your baby, it could be a sports team, it could be a widget manufacturing company, it could be cars, it could be furniture. It doesn't matter. If it's your business and you've built this thing from zero and you want it to succeed, with everything that you've invested, you're going to want to bring in your guys if something hasn't gone right, because you're comfortable with them for whatever reason, for whatever they're good at, in whatever business we're talking about. You're going to bring in your folks. It happens across the board in businesses everywhere. If you're the new guy in there, if you want to sit there and fix something, you're going to bring in folks that you have relationships with. You're going to bring in folks that you're comfortable with because they share your same philosophy. They see where you want to go with something. So it would make sense for someone like Beckham to trust someone like a Phil Neville. So it's always those relationships that you're looking at. It's like, okay, who's he tight with? Who's so-and-so tight with? How are we going to sit there and do something? All right, so who can I call real quick to sit there and help me fix this? And if one of those phone calls, in this particular case, is David Beckham with Gary Neville, then so be it. Phil Neville.
Yes.
Neville's all over the place.
Yes,
but
they're very different.
It's just, one's a pundit, one's not. But that's my point is, if you're tight with somebody and they share your philosophy, doesn't matter what it is, to make that call to help you out, to fix things, that's what you're going to do. That's your first impulse. You're not gonna sit there and wander aimlessly trying to find somebody. You're going to bring in your guys to help you fix something.
Other news from the morning: Mark McKenzie to you going to call him Gink? You going Gink?
Well, if like I said, that's how I grew up with Gank. But if it's Hank, then it's Hank.
Or Hank. I don't know. I've seen it every which way. Not Hank.
Hank.
Jeez. Anyway, Mark McKenzie's going to play there.
Not like King of the Hill, but Hank.
Yes. Thank you. Mark McKenzie is going to play there. Philadelphia will retain a sell-on percentage. It's done. It was expected to be done. It makes sense. They have officially announced it. So good on Mark McKenzie. Our friend Jonathan Tannenwald has a great piece over at the Philadelphia Inquirer with quotes from McKenzie about the move. Luis Robles retired. Not really a surprise. Had the broken arm and don't know when he would have been back for next year. Probably for training camp, but maybe not. But it wasn't a good year for him. It really looked like the reactions were starting to slow down a bit. He struggled earlier in the season. So I'm not blown away there. I don't know what the market would have been for him anyway if he'd wanted to continue. Great goalkeeper from the United States who was right underneath the national team level. Probably should have got more caps than he did. He had some incredible runs with the New York Red Bulls. Carried that team. Great captain for them. But just underneath the elite level of goalkeepers in this country. Just underneath it.
Don't have any odds as of yet for the new manager at Inter Miami CF.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find this.
Yeah.
Brian Reynolds, this one continues to spin around. We haven't had an update in a little while, but Football Italia is reporting that Roma have reached back out to Dallas, and they have increased their personal offer to Brian Reynolds to try to hijack the move to Juventus. They had fallen behind Juventus and club who?
Brugge.
Yes, that one. Roma's new general manager started on January 1st, according to Tom Bogert of MLSsoccer.com. So it makes sense if he's going to come back and readdress it and try to get back into the mix. Well, we'll see. Brian Reynolds, still an FC Dallas player. We'll see how long that lasts. The Kevin Molino update to Columbus. I did not see that one coming. And Columbus, as the defending champions, have only gotten better going into 2021. You look at what they've added in Bradley Wright Phillips as a reserve forward, which is better than anything they have had in the last couple of years, backing up Jossie Zardes. Now they've added Kevin Molino to an attack that has Zardes, that has Luis Diaz, that has Pedro Santos, that has Lucas Zelarayan, that has in the holding midfield Darlington Nagbe and Artur, and a developing Aiden Morris and Sebastian Berhalter. Where does he play is maybe the biggest question. I guess he takes Diaz's spot, and Diaz becomes a bit of a super sub or becomes expendable. And if he's expendable, I think there's teams he should be talking because he's one of the most electric players in the league when he's on. He's just been a little too inconsistent at times. Defensively, they're good when they're healthy. You have Eloy Room. You added Evan Bush as a backup goalkeeper as well. So now you have an experienced backup number 2 in goal. You brought Waylon Francis back to back up Milton Valenzuela. You have a developing Abubakar Keita with Jonathan Mensah, with Josh Williams, with Vito Wormhor, who's coming back from injury, who was supposed to be the starting center back next to Mensah. And you still have Harrison Offal, who is one of the better right backs in the league at 34. How long can he do it? We don't know. But that's a team with very few holes and really outside of the central midfield, which you could say Aiden Morris has filled that gap in reserve. they fixed any holes that they had in terms of depth by adding Molino, by adding BWP, by bringing back Francis and adding Evan Bush. This is a really good team that will be potentially the favorite going into 2021.
I was going to ask you if they're the leader in the clubhouse for you when it comes to the Eastern Conference.
Well, right now, but I mean, you've got teams that haven't finished their seasons, or I mean, their off seasons, their transfer windows. So you can't really say yet. We'll say the week before the season once we know what the rosters and lineups are going to look like. But they haven't done anything to hurt themselves, that's for sure.
And Emma Boateng also to the Revs. I think that was also yesterday, too.
Another bit of depth, another player that Bruce Arena is familiar with from his time with the Galaxy. So, again, makes a lot of sense. And the Revs continue to strengthen their depth. It's impressive. Zinedine Zidane is in isolation, awaiting the result of a PCR test, according to AS in Spain. So this is going to be very difficult over the next month, maybe 2 months in Europe, as you're trying to get through a really difficult part of the season with a lot of players and staff and managers testing positive. It's just going to happen.
Let's see. What else is on the upboard? Getting back to our Neville's discussion.
Yes.
Tafka's in. He says, here's some humor for everyone at my expense. Well, considering that I've already done it this morning. Shamefully, I initially got Phil Neville and Steve Nicol confused in my head. Imagine my reaction to a Miami hiring of Steve Nicol.
He went a completely different direction. You went Gary Neville. He went Steve Nicol instead of Phil Neville. That is a very different one. I think Phil Neville will do better in 2021 in Miami than Steve Nicol would. Steve Nicol did well with the New England Revolution, did very well, and then his time was up, and he's gone into TV, and he's entertaining on TV. I don't know if he would be the right person to lead that Miami team. I would lean to no because of the way things finished with the Revs. Yeah. Copa Sudamericana tonight, Vélez Sarsfield and Lanús. Last night, Lanús got the win on the road at Vélez 1-0. Tonight, it is Defensa y Justicia on the road at Coquimbo Unido. What are the numbers there?
Defensa is a minus 160. That has grown over the last day. That started out as even money, by the way, plus 100. That's gone to minus 159. Coquimbo is a plus 475, and your draw is a plus 260.
Coquimbo Unido has one of the most impressive crests you will find. It is a very simple black and yellow checkerboard of 4 squares, but with a pirate head on the top of it. Always fun. They come in, not really in the greatest of form. They won their last match in league against Huachipato 1-0 on the 27th of December. They lost 2 before that, 1-0 and 3-0. They lost their second leg in the Sudamericana quarterfinal against Atletico Junior at home 1-0, but they had enough of a lead to move forward. They lost their previous league game before that, so they've won 1 of their last 5, lost 4 of those. And before that, they were in a pretty good run of form. They did go to Colombia to face Atletico Junior and won 2-1, and that gave them enough of the cushion. Yes, that is why, Kefsi, I am wearing the Defensa y Justicia shirt today, because they are playing today, and we'll get to see Hernan Crespo. Every game, it feels like with all the interest in him right now, every game feels like an audition for Crespo, who has done an incredible job with Defensa in the Sudamericana. We're really close to getting them into the knockouts in the Libertadores, but they've gone into the Sudamericana and they've made the best of the situation. And they are in a series that they are the overwhelming favorites. Going to Chile, and they are the overwhelming favorite on the road here. They need to get a win. They need to get a goal, a couple goals preferably, and then come back home next week and close it out. And then Defensa's in a final in South America, which is nuts. Absolutely nuts. But Crespo is a guy who I think personality-wise is different than Heinze in terms of just the way he the vibe he gives off on the touchline. He feels like with the group of players he has, it's very motivational. He's constantly trying to push them forward. If mistakes happen, he's always trying to pick them back up. I think that's just his personality, and it comes out. It's very warm. Like it's different, and I think it suited him well with the club that he's at and where he's at right now. He has a bright future as a manager. His history as a player obviously won't hurt him, but he has a bright future as a manager. What he's done getting Defensa to a semifinal in South America is massive. So, and he should get him to the final. If he doesn't, there's going to be questions. He should get them to the final against, right now, Lanús has the driver's seat. They have the second leg at home. And you would have, if Defensa gets to the final, you're going to have an all-Argentine final in the Copa Sudamericana, which will, against either one of those. That'll be a game you're going to have to watch. It'll be a really fun match. So, Defensa tonight, 7:30 kick in Chile. You can watch it on BN Sport, BN in Espanol. You can watch it on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. That's our affiliate link. Thanks to all of you who have signed up and subscribed and gotten your free trial and maybe subscribed after the free trial. It's been a great source of being able to watch not just the games that are on BN, which some of you get BN on other forms, but having Goal TV there and watching Moises Caicedo, seeing all of the games if I have a BN network, but I don't get all of the different BN Connect channels, for example. It's been great to have the La Liga TV channel that they have on there, which it's a great production, and they're starting to advertise that a little bit more. I kind of found it by accident. You know, it's the La Liga TV that I think was initially created for the UK audience, and it's all La Liga conversation in English. It's great. You have Real Madrid TV in English and Spanish. You've got a lot of little bonuses in there outside of the big games that are very, very cool. So, Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here to get in to watch Defensa and Coquimbo Unido, the Piratas, I'm guessing, because they have a giant pirate head on their crest.
Yep. Tiendapirata.cl is the rabbit hole that I've gone down to check out all of the great kits and the gear. So I'm going to wait until the show is over to get the exchange rates and see if I should purchase something.
Ay, Dios mío.
News out of the FA Cup.
Okay.
Marine, it was an article in the Athletic UK where the head of Marine, the 8th tier club, basically said if they don't win, they're going to furlough.
Because they don't have a league. They don't. Right. They're not playing any games. So, I mean, I think that was maybe taken a little out of context, right?
Yeah, because, I mean...
There's no games.
Yeah, there's no games, and you're out £100,000, I think, by not having fans come into the stands. The Athletic UK has stepped forward, and they will be the back of the shirt sponsor for the match against Spurs.
Very cool.
Marine says they're indebted to the Athletic UK for the deal, which will also see the Athletic branding adorned to the house numbers on Rossett Road. So very, very cool that the Athletic UK is stepping up to help out Marine there against the Spurs in FA Cup.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, so you'll probably step away and be typing for a minute. Nick Alifi on the Twitch pitch says that Marine FC kits are running for £19 right now.
Oh, I'm in.
That's what I figured.
I'm so in.
So while John's doing that, we'll get into a couple other things. So yesterday, Manchester City advanced to the Gummy Bear Cup final, the EFL Cup final. Really strong performance from them, 2-0 win. First half, meh. Second half, goals from John Stones and Fernandinho.
Did not have them on the bingo card.
No, did not. They're playing really, really well, and they've got a manageable, although busy, calendar between now and when they play Liverpool on February 6th. Bernd Dursberger on the Twitch pitch and in the SDH universe has talked for a while now about Manchester City being the team that's playing the best in England. They've got the ability to stack up points right now, and to go into that Liverpool game with a lot of games, but potentially a lot of points because they're manageable games. It could get it to be a very interesting race. The flip side is you want to see how Manchester United bounces back from another semifinal loss. They keep losing in semifinals, consistently losing in semifinals. The final Gummy Bear Cup match will be with Manchester City and Tottenham. The last 7 seasons, Manchester City or a Jose Mourinho side, Chelsea or Manchester United, have won this. And Pep has won it the last 3 times. Manchester City's only the second team to even get to 4 straight League Cup finals. Liverpool did it between 1981 and 84. So that will be a fun match, and it'll be a bigger match than maybe a typical Gummy Bear Cup final because you'll get some back and forth between Pep and Jose.
Yeah, it'll be the 26th time that they have matched wits. The 25th time will be February 13th at the Etihad. Pep is 11-6-7 against Mourinho, but Mourinho has led Spurs to consecutive 2-0 defeats of Manchester City. They've won 3 of 4 against Mourinho, dating back to their time as Derby rivals. So that one should be fun.
Manchester United side of this. Ole, after the match, said, both teams didn't create many big chances, but we weren't good enough today. Very disappointing to concede from 2 set plays. You meet good teams in the semis, we just didn't have enough. At the moment, they're probably the best team in England. Hard to disagree. Roy Keane had some comments about Bruno Fernandes. Now, Bruno's played incredibly well. The numbers back up what he's done since he came to Manchester United, but Keane called him out because he's getting compared to Eric Cantona, but Keane said he's not performing in big games like Cantona did. He said it's not easy winning football trophies. Fernandes has had praise for the last few months, and people have been comparing him to Cantona. He didn't really do much tonight. The top players turn up in the big occasions, and that's what the Cantonas used to do. They get their hands on trophies. That's where this team are a little bit short. Was it 5 semifinals in the last maybe 18 months that they've come up short in?
Yep.
That's not an incorrect statement by Roy Keane. Do you put it all on Bruno Fernandes? That's probably a little harsh, but he's been getting a lot of the praise, and you have to get some of the criticism when you're not winning these games. Because it does start to feel like, is there a mental block? Is there an issue in the big moments with the group as a whole? Because you're getting close, but you're not getting over the line. Manchester United's not a club that's going to be happy in the long term with getting close.
You look at, I was looking at the table really quickly right now. Manchester United match in hand, tied with Liverpool at 33 points, behind in goal difference by 7. And Manchester City is 1 or 2 matches in hand. They've played 15. Manchester United's played 16. Liverpool and Leicester played 17. Tottenham's played 16. But Manchester City, let's just say 2 matches in hand. If they win them both and they've won their last 3 in league, that put them at 35 points at 17 matches played.
All right, we'll get into final questions from you guys. So throw them at us on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. You can throw them into the Twitch pitch as well. We've got a couple to start with, and we'll start with yours, Sean, in just a second. Players on the silly season list to keep an eye on. We've talked about Caicedo. We'll keep you posted on that if anything else develops. Adolfo Gaich, a young Argentine forward who was great at San Lorenzo, went to CSKA Moscow and 1 goal in 18 matches. It has not gone well. Boca are interested in him, and it sounds like he wants to return to Argentina. It could be a loan initially. Reports are that a permanent transfer would be unlikely, but it could depend on the fee because they spent a decent bit to get him. CSKA Moscow did. Boca doesn't want to blow a whole lot of money, but they could have money coming in if they sell Pavon, if they sell Almendra, if they make other moves. So keep an eye on that one, but they're looking for somebody to find the back of the net consistently. Adolfo Gaich, young 21-year-old Argentine forward, a big guy, kind of a number 9, a true number 9, old school number 9. He produced at San Lorenzo. Can he produce at Boca? We'll have to see. Jack Grealish, name keeps coming up about January moves. Villa plan to turn down bids during January. Where they are in the table, there's no need to even think about selling right now. The bids will come up. That's not a shock. They can't make a move now. If they make a move in the summer, if the number's right, the number's right. And you got to use that to bolster your squad. But they're not going to do it right now, not with the year they're having. Christian Eriksen is linked to Villa. And according to Sport Witness, Villa made a timid inquiry for Eriksen. They feel like he's probably looking for something bigger, but they're like, hey, we're here. If Villa could add a player like that and he can perform, that would bolster their run for sure. And maybe they start looking at European football for next year. We'll have to see. Remember Marcos Rojo? He's still under contract at Manchester United. He has agreed to a 2-year deal with Boca Juniors. on the personal side, Boca want to get him for free, so Rojo's got to convince, or Boca's got to convince Manchester United to just let him go. They don't have plans for him. I mean, he's 30. They're not going to bring him back into the team. Do they want to try to get something out of it, or are they going to let him go? They probably should just cut their losses at this point. I mean, they had loaned him to Estudiantes, I think, maybe right before the pandemic. If he's got an opportunity to go to Boca, let him go. Just figure out, just get him off your books, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, if he's even on your books at this point, but you're not going to get anything for him. Don't hold him hostage at this point. Sebastian Haller is headed to Ajax from West Ham. 25 million euro with add-ons. That's a big deal for West Ham. That I'm just assuming, because clubs bigger than West Ham have said this, they probably didn't have any budget to go out into the market and do anything. You get 25 million euro for West Ham, that could be a couple players. And that could be really important as they're in that gaggle of teams. A couple of pieces for West Ham could change them in a big way.
Yeah, no doubt. Right now, in that gaggle, they are 17 played. They're in 10th at 26 points. But once again, 3 points separating 4th from 10th. You've got Tottenham, City, Southampton, Everton, all at 29. Then you've got Villa, Chelsea, West Ham. Obviously, goal difference is the difference in positioning, all at 26. So that's your 4 through 10 right now, separated by 3 points.
3 more names to keep an eye on. Lasse Schöne has terminated his contract with Genoa in Italy. Bunch of Serie A sides have shown interest in adding him. Torino, Parma, Cagliari. See if maybe he goes elsewhere. Parma will be looking for a new manager after a bad start to the season. New ownership, not a good start, not a good recipe to keep your job. So they will be in the market for a new manager. We'll see what direction they go. Sergio Ramos. This is going to continue to be big-time, headline-inducing stuff in Spain. El Chiringuito TV, our new favorite show. Josep Pedrol, the host, said that PSG called Real Madrid to tell them that they didn't make an offer for Sergio Ramos. All kinds of drama. Parma brought back their old manager. Thank you, Nick. Okay, so we know who their manager will be. Sergio Ramos, this stuff is going to continue. I mean, there's been reports that he's turned down offers from Real Madrid. The PSG stuff has come up. Chiringuito TV said that Ramos told Florentino Perez that they were going to build a team around him and Messi. Perez was basically like, well, if they're going to give you a good offer, you should take it, and it's just drama. And then from Mexico, and it involves MLS, keep an eye on Orbelin Pineda at Cruz Azul, left winger. 24 years old, national team level winger, valued at $7 million. Cruz Azul paid $12 million to Chivas to get him in January of 2019. He is in demand. Tigres is interested in doing a player swap with Cruz Azul to get him, and there's an unnamed MLS team in the mix. Don't know who it is. Cruz Azul wants $12 million. They want to get their money back. 24-year-old Mexican international, $12 million is not crazy. It's more than he's valued at, but it's not crazy.
Who do you think it could be?
I don't know. I have to run through the rosters a little bit. There's a few it could be. I mean, you look at the Texas teams. He's a left winger, which, you look at Austin. They've got a couple guys who play on the left in Redis and Dominguez, so I'm not really buying that one. Dallas and Houston don't generally spend that kind of money, but do they want to make a splash? San Jose needs to make a splash. It'd be a player that would have played with Matias Almeida at Chivas. So my guess would be San Jose. And I know that's a little outside the box because they don't normally spend like that, but he's a player that would be known to the manager, and maybe a player that the manager would be saying, hey, go get him for me. Yeah. So my money's on San Jose there.
Okay. Got some stuff with Liverpool.
Okay, what do we got on Liverpool?
All of the drama with Liverpool. But
what
first and foremost,
drama?
First off, let me get to Nathan Pugh says that Liverpool should forfeit out of sympathy and just give the tie to Villa.
No, you got to keep playing in the FA Cup. You got games to play. Stop trying to get out of games.
So let's we have a bunch of information with Liverpool today. Jurgen Klopp, in his pre-Aston Villa presser, said a new center back is not likely due to the pandemic, but did not entirely rule out the possibility.
He's been saying that consistently.
Yeah, I cannot say definitely we will not bring one in. It's just not likely because of the situation in the world. We should not forget that the situation is a tough one for all people and for all football clubs as well. There might be some clubs with absolutely no financial problems, but this club is always very responsible with the things we do. If the world would have been in a normal place and the club was in the best possible situation with 3 center halves plus Fabinho and Keita all injured, is that a situation where usually we would do something? Yes, definitely. But we are not in that situation, so I don't know if something will happen or not. Maybe you could do something, but it wouldn't be a short-term solution. It's not right because it doesn't help, really. We have to deal with the situation. So basically, was this a non-committal committal or a non-denial denial?
I got nothing. That's a lot of words to say nothing.
Yeah, that's it. So it's like it's and they also did not have a whole lot to say on the Gigi Wijnaldum contract situation. Apparently, the talks have reached a stalemate. Klopp said there's nothing really to say. I think I've said everything about how much I like the person and the player. That's not good or bad news. Once again, you're getting like the word salad from Klopp here. He says if there's a decision, you will know it. And so word salad in 2 separate areas from Jurgen Klopp this morning. Also, there's the possibility that David Alaba, that they're chasing after David Alaba.
No, he's going to Real Madrid. Stop. We've covered this many, many times. He's going to go to Real Madrid. Liverpool's not going to pay him what they need.
It's like they're looking, I think, what, $9 million?
He supposedly wanted a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, Liverpool's offering Alaba apparently £9 million a year.
You know, I'm skeptical of the English media when it comes to these things because of the way the whole Manchester United Caicedo stuff has gone. Like, he's leading the race. They're going to get him. They've got control of your situation. Meanwhile, they haven't even made an offer. So, I mean, I'm skeptical. I'm not buying it. I think Alaba ends up at Real Madrid.
And also, Sky is saying that Liverpool is reportedly monitoring a couple of central defenders following Lovren's departure at Zenit last summer. And
should have brought somebody in already. That's on them.
Yeah, and so is it bringing up the guys that you've got? Is it sticking with Reece Williams and Nat Phillips?
You promised me Liverpool news, and I'm getting a lot of the same things.
I said drama.
Feels like this.
Now I hit the rim. It's boom, click and go back this way. Boom, here, click and go that way.
That's how Klopp talks to the media, and that's how Liverpool talks to the media. So I'm kind of like, just stop.
Yeah. So it's like Ben White from Brighton, Upamecano from RB Leipzig, Skriniar from Inter, and Kabak from Schalke.
Yeah, same names we've been hearing for a while, and not going to get them now, and they might be able to get him, but they might not be able to get him, but he doesn't know, but blah, 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 blah.
Word salad from Jurgen Klopp.
Same stuff we've been hearing. I don't buy the Alaba one. We'll see what they do in the summer. This is going to get interesting. Okay, Twitch pitch as we wrap up. First question from Sean Vergara. What do you think about Dele Alli? Does he go? He should go. Spurs should let him go. And if PSG is going to put money in front of you, take it. There's no point holding on to him at this point. You're not going to repair the relationship. I think Jose will be there for a little bit of time at least. I don't think he's going anywhere. Let him go. If you can get a return for him, cool. If you think you could repair the relationship, if you change managers in the next couple of years, then loan him. Then loan him out. Put him on an extended loan if you want to keep control over his contract. But there's no point in keeping him there right now. He's not going to play. He's not rated the same way, and it doesn't look like he's handling it very well either. So move on. If Poach wants to bring him to PSG, do right by the player. Send him to PSG. Do it. Yeah. If that's the best thing, do it.
In his first press conference, Pochettino with PSG at his unveiling said, any big player in the world is always welcome at Paris Saint-Germain.
Well, of course. I mean, that's PSG's a big club. Tesco about Cantona said never turned up in European competitions. He was good in the league, but struggled in Europe because England was so far behind the world when he played. Yeah. In European competition, I mean, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson talking about before they won the treble in '99, and that was after Cantona, like, just how difficult it was for them to compete in Champions League. They were behind it. The top English teams, They played a different game at that point, so they really struggled going to Europe. So I don't even put that so much on Cantona. I put it more on what he had around him. But yeah, he wasn't able to lift them further in European competition. That would have been a pretty big lift. I don't think he was a Swedish strongman, just a French philosopher, that's all. Cassie says, likelihood of starting the MLS season later and with regional games in percentage out of 100. Later and with regional games, I would say 95%. I don't think a whole lot later. I could see them starting after the March international window, which I think would put them the first weekend in April, which would be starting a month later, which you've got to find a spot in the schedule for those games, or you push MLS Cup 21 back to where it's been in late December, or probably mid-December, and you just add those games to the end of what you would have planned. I do think you need to look at regional scheduling early on, and I'm with Mike Conti on this. Do batches of scheduling. You don't have to do the full schedule. I don't compare. I don't really care, or I'm not going to compare it. I'm not going to get worked up about it in terms of competitive balance and balanced schedule this year. Be smart, especially early on. Do a regional schedule. You do want to have in the back of your mind, though, by the end of the season, you should be able to have open venues, fully open. You do want the ability to have an El Tráfico, a Cascadia derby, a Hudson River derby, an Atlanta-Orlando game. You do want some rivalry games late, too. So you've got to think about some form of balance in that. But you've also got to do things right in the short term to make it as easy as possible to get these games played early on. So maybe you're going just a step beyond regional. Maybe Atlanta, early on, you're trying to get them against Cincinnati, against D.C., against Miami, maybe the Texas teams that are still trips, but you want to save like Atlanta, Nashville for late if you can because of what the attendance could be for both. I mean, if you can open up both full venues and have 65 and 75 in the building for those, yeah, you want that because you want that revenue back. So figure that out. But yeah, I 95% that it starts later and that it starts regionally. I think that makes sense. Just not crazy later. And a month is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Let's see what else we got. DK, thanks for hanging out. No worries, you were late. Re-listen later. We're here. It's always available for you. No problem. Burn says, no way David Alaba to Liverpool. Laughing emoji. $9 million isn't cutting it when he wants $25 million a year.
Right.
Yeah. DK is asking, what time will the Caicedo decision be made? I don't even know if it happens today. I don't know for sure. That was what the club had said. They wanted to get it done by today. There's no way. There's no deadline. There's no end game for it. If they're still negotiating, if they're still trying to figure it out, they'll still try to figure it out. So just stay tuned. We'll keep you posted as best we can with what we hear. KFC says, slightly random request. Atlanta United should add to their roster pages what FC Dallas has, the section with a pronunciation file for the name. Pretty cool. Some teams do that. I like when they get the player to pronounce it themselves. There's some teams that I question the way they do their phonetic pronunciation guide because sometimes they use different phonetics than the rest of us.
Yes.
Or they're just not very clear in where they want accents and how they want it. And there's some that I don't think they ask the player. I think they just have it wrong. I want the player to say it, so then we can figure it out. Kana Kimana is a prime example of this with Atlanta United too. That's how we figured out the proper way to say his name, and it's still hard because he says it differently than you would think it would be pronounced. Because it looks like Bienvenue, but it's Bienvenue. That's the way he said it. So it's Chris Ramondi of Atlanta United 2, Atlanta United's comm staff, got it on tape. I listened to it, and I said it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again to try to make myself say it properly. It's tough because sometimes you get little different regional pronunciations, and I want to pronounce it like the player pronounces it. So that's what we try to do. Very very cool, and that might happen. Good stuff. Always like it when people are hanging out on the Twitch pitch. So let's see what else we got. Lots of people like that idea. Excelente. Turner says, I think they do. If they do throw in some interconference games, when do you think those would start during the season? I mean, I don't know if it's like a hard and fast rule, because there's some teams that it makes sense to have some interconference games just because of the travel. So, I mean, teams who are close to the East-West line in the league, let them play some interconference games. I don't know. I mean, just do what makes sense, and it's going to be tough, but do the best you can to have as close to a competitive schedule as you possibly can. Just do the best you can with it. I'm not worried about the rules of it, to be honest. If Kansas City plays Chicago, good. I'm fine with that. That's an easy trip. Let them do it. Don't know what we'll do with the Canadian teams. If they do a round robin early on to buy some time, then you'll have some interconference stuff. I don't know. We'll see. Ricky Ricardo wants an audio Discord when I guess any updates on Caicedo happens. Potentially, yeah. I'll look into that. I haven't done anything with that yet. Possibly, we'll see. And for those of you who are listening, you're like, Discord, what's that? What's going on? We have a Discord for our subscribers on Twitch and for our subscribers on Patreon. If you have not gotten the link, because I'm learning that some of the integrations don't always send the link automatically like they're supposed to, give me a heads up and we'll get you the link and get you in. So watch along channel. There's all the different channels for all the different things we talk about. People share news in there too, which is great. People share videos and different rumors and things. So it's becoming a really nice community for some of the stuff that happens when we're not on the air. And it's really helpful. So I've really enjoyed it. I hope it's starting to further that community feel that we're trying to create here. So yes, Ricky, if we get some news on that, I'll do something for sure on the Discord. DK, last question. For my re-listen, which platform or view listen benefits Soccer Down Here more? I usually use Apple Podcasts for the re-listen, but can use Twitch if it's more beneficial. Twitch isn't more beneficial. Apple Podcasts is fine. Any of the podcatchers that you use, you can go to soccerdownhere.net as well and listen on the player there. You can go straight to our page on Spreaker, which is our hosting provider. That's fine too. Any of those with the podcast side are fine because it does hit the ad flow network that we have with Spreaker. So all of that is good. That's probably better than Twitch, to be honest, in terms of the re-listen or listening later, just because of the way the advertising side works out. I appreciate you asking because, I mean, more than anything, listen to whatever makes sense for you. Like, listen to whatever's the most convenient for you. But thank you for thinking about us and thinking about what would help the most. That's very cool. Yeah. Matt Wagner wants to know who the biggest breakout player for the twos would be this year.
Ooh.
It's hard to say because I don't think the roster's anywhere near done. So I'm thinking of players who we saw a little bit last year, but not a ton. I'm going to go with an easy one and say Efrain Morales. Yeah. Because now that he's a full pro, I think he'll be in that mix day one. And at his age and the raw potential that he has right now, I think we could see a big jump from him with more time. So I'll go Efrain Morales, the center back.
Coleman Gannon.
Yeah, could be. I mean, he was good last year, so to make a big jump, that's a big jump. I think Morales has more room to grow, but we'll see. Yeah. I like Gannon's game. I want to see if Gannon is looked at as maybe more of an outside back. We saw him play there some last year, and he really impressed me in that position. I did not expect him to be as strong in that position as we saw. If you didn't see, Doug Robertson of the AJC had an update that Stephen Glass would be back with Atlanta United too, according to his sources. Expected. That was the plan, but there's always questions when you have different changes and different things happen in a season. So that's the reporting. Would love to see it. I think the work that Steven did with the first team to clear the decks after Frank de Boer, also the work that he did to leave the decks in a good position for Tony Annan, who was the interim manager with the twos, and their work together is really, really important. You don't want a lot of turnover in those positions on a regular basis. Not to develop players because you want consistency. That's where the DNA of the club is created. The first team is what gets the most attention. The DNA is created in the academy and with your second team, which is an extension of that. So those guys are vital, and you want them back and you want them continuing, and it sounds like everything will be moving forward business as usual in that regard.
Let's see. A couple of other odds and ends, non-Twitter based. Once again, the Mesut Ozil saga. This morning, his agent, Dr. Eric Soget, says in the next 7 to 10 days it'll be a little clearer. And we all know that. And I know this soundbite, or this quote from Mikel Arteta will shock you. Will absolutely shock you.
What?
Mikel Arteta said, if I can find it. So, of course, he says that if the deal is right for both us and the player, Mesut Ozil can leave in the January window.
Wow.
Wasn't that insightful?
I mean, it's insightful because it's accurate. Like, what did you want him to say?
It's like, yeah, I want him out.
Why do you want him to say that? That's mean.
If something is sorted, because he's not played for like 3 years. If something is sorted this month, it's because it's good for both parties. Good for Mesut and his future, and good for the club. If that's the case, we'll move forward. If that's not the case, the player will continue here.
Yeah, trying to get a deal done. You don't say bad things about the guy you're trying to get a deal done with. You get him out of there, then you can say that.
It should have been done a long time ago.
Maybe they tried. Maybe they couldn't. You acting like they didn't try?
Well, I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know. I just remember the Instagram photos with him back in Turkey and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, maybe the offers weren't good enough. I don't know. I mean, they should have tried to get something for him at some point, but maybe they just couldn't pull it off. And we'll see what happens. He'll be at Fenerbahce. I don't see him coming to MLS. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He makes so much money that I don't see MLS doing it.
No,
and I'm not spending that money on him either at this point. Not having not played in a long time. When the rumors came up about Luka Modric and the amount of money it would have taken to pay him to come, yeah, it's worth it because he was performing, and you're coming off of a Ballon d'Or in 2018. Mesut Ozil's hardly played for a couple of years, so you're not spending that kind of money on him. Sorry, go to Fenerbahce and make that cash.
What's on your viewing list today?
Not a ton. Not really much. It'll be Defensa this evening, 7:30, Copa Sudamericana. That's the big one. You've got some Brasileiro first division stuff that's also on the Brasileiro pack on Fanatis. Internacional is playing at 5 o'clock. Vasco da Gama is at 7 o'clock. So you've got those to watch. It's not a ton. You've got some Copa del Rey, and there was a big upset yesterday with Atleti getting knocked out, currently leading the league. There's been a lot of upsets. Ibiza with a big upset on Celta Vigo, 5-2. It was a crazy game. I watched the second half of that one. You've got Valencia in action today against Yeclano Deportivo. You've got Eibar going to Las Rosas. You've got Cadiz going to Pontevedra. I believe in the Copa del Rey, the larger division team goes to the smaller division team in this round.
Yeah.
I mean, it creates upsets, but I don't love that situation. If it's a cup, if it's a true open cup, if it's true Federation Cup, then do a draw and you play where you play. But if that's the way they want to do it, then you're going to have a bunch of upsets and you're going to have some weird situations like Celta going to Ibiza and getting run off the park in the first half, 3-0. Weird stuff.
Huesca is a -137 favorite on the road. Eibar is a -312 favorite on the road.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a lot of home underdogs in that situation because of because of playing on the road in those. Let's see. Turner is patiently waiting on his Prime sub to come back so he can use the Discord. Well, give me a heads up, Turner, because you're a regular. Let's see. I thought you were a sub, so I'm a little confused. Good luck. Get it sorted out, my friend. Turner asks, first Atlanta United manager to not go directly to a national team position. Heinze. It'll be Heinze because he'll go to a club one. He'll get a big club opportunity after this, I would think. Manchester United just tweeted out that they have got the deal signed, sealed, and delivered. Maybe they're singing Stevie Wonder. I don't know. Amad Diallo is done. He is coming to Manchester now. Atalanta, I believe, wanted to keep him a little bit longer. Not going to be able to get it done. So he is being welcomed by Manchester United on Twitter. That had been announced and talked about, but I think there was still a little up in the air about when it would go down, when it would be finalized, and it is done now. So that's one for Manchester United. Looks like, according to the reports that we heard early today, Moises Caicedo is not going to Manchester United. Reports out of Manchester said that they were not going to make a move at the moment. Reports out of England have Everton leading the race at the moment. Don't know if those are accurate or not. There are, I know it had come up in the Twitch pitch, it had already been talked about before from Tutto Mercato Web that Caicedo had rejected offers from Atlanta United and Inter Miami as he wants to go to Manchester United. That was older, and that's one thing that's hard about this stuff. I mean, people are posting stuff as it's new, but it's recycled from something that's old, so it can get really confusing. What we know at this point is what we've heard from the club, from their sporting director, in that they have had an offer from an MLS club. He did not say who it was, and that was the best financial offer that the club had received for Caicedo. We know that there had been an offer from another European club. There have been rumors about a number of European clubs that have been interested. That has happened. There is a report out of Ecuador this morning that recycles or is clarifying or is a real report that is the same as what Tutto Mercato had said previously about Caicedo rejecting MLS clubs to try to go to Manchester United. But if they're not going to make an offer, then it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, that's where this is all really, really difficult. That's hard to follow. Jonathan Schrager, who I don't know what his outlets are, but he has a ton of followers on Twitter, so he's not a new account that started in the last month. He has said that there was a virtual meeting, probably Zoom, maybe Google Hangout, I don't know, maybe Skype, between a Premier League club that was not Manchester United and Independiente del Valle to discuss the potential transfer of Moises Caicedo. The player was on the call. An offer hasn't been made yet. That is from Jonathan Schrager. This is where it is right now. So we will keep you posted with anything else we see that pops up the rest of the day. Don't know where he ends up. Don't know what happens. But just the fact, as Mataflo has consistently said, somebody who knows the game in Ecuador very, very well, just the fact that Atlanta United is mentioned in this is important. Just the fact that people worldwide are seeing that MLS clubs are going after this kind of talent is very, very important. Yeah, Mataflo, you're our Ecuadorian correspondent. It's a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. So we'll see if it gets done. And as Tom Robinson told us in hour number 1, it would be an incredible get if Atlanta United can pull it off. Incredible get. Yes, DK, there is a big if there, but yes, that will happen. I'm not going to jinx it. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully we were able to give you a needed distraction with a lot of crazy soccer stuff. Y'all do right by the people around you. Treat the people around you good and try to make the world a better place, please. We'll keep you posted on everything that happens in the soccer world. I'm sure I'll be probably popping into the Discord talking about Defensa tonight. Y'all have a good rest of the day, and mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.